This page is the rather exciting front cover of Total 64, declaring itself the premier unofficial source for all things N64. They're kicking off a new look issue with a dramatic close-up on a serious-looking bloke, likely linked to the featured preview of Mission Impossible from Infogrames. Apparently, it's a spy-fi blockbuster. Sounds promising. Also getting top billing is the snowboarding action in 1080 degrees snowboarding, with Nintendo apparently getting fat. There's a big football clash highlighted too, pitting IS 98 against World Cup 98, asking who truly reigns supreme on the virtual pitch. And crikey, there's an exclusive reader offer for GoldenEye, promising a handy discount. The issue teases previews of upcoming hits like Turok 2 and Banjo-Kazooie, alongside reviews and other bits and bobs. Looks like essential reading to get the lowdown on the latest N64 happenings. This page is a full-page advert for Gameplay Mail Order, boasting the world's most powerful consoles at Britain's lowest prices, with a free 48-hour delivery guarantee on 64 machines. This page is a full-page advert for Gameplay Mail Order, promoting their vast selection of N64 and PlayStation hardware, accessories and games, including a range of Virtual Boy titles for just £15.99 and a new second-hand game service. Total 64 magazine launches a new look issue, boasting itself as the best N64 magazine, with revamped content. Reviews cover diverse titles like 1080 degrees snowboarding, Wave Race 64, Mystical Ninja starring Goemon, Now Pal, Weetrix, Tamagotchi World, and Robotron 64. A contest on page 68 offers an N64 console and 10 copies of Weetrix. An editorial argues that Nintendo games are evolving beyond the cute image of the past, citing titles like Turok 2 and 1080 degrees snowboarding as evidence of a broader appeal, perhaps inspired by Rare's GoldenEye success. This page is the contents of the new look issue 15, proudly displaying the big contents title right across the middle. Up top you've got the issue number, and a little N64 controller peeking over the edge, just in case you forgot what machine this mag is all about. The main sections detail the previews, including the much anticipated Mission Impossible, diving into the spy action, and football heavyweights IS 98 and World Cup 98, battling it out for pitch supremacy. There's also a look at the frenetic Forsaken and the racing thrills of GT Club. Further down, under 64 Mations, they cover offbeat titles like Pokémon Snap, the alien antics of Tonic Trouble, the Racer Rev Limit, and the monster mayhem of Rampage World Tour. Finally, the rest covers all the usual suspects you'd expect: news, reviews, cheats, and other magazine regulars. Looks like they've packed a fair bit in, eh? This page kicks off the news section for issue 15, proudly declaring what, where, when. Over on the left, there's a big list of release dates for April, May, and June of 1998, letting everyone know what's hitting the States soon. The main event is the massive headline, "It's a Dino Blast," covering the highly anticipated Turok 2. The article dives into the sequel, subtitled Seeds of Evil, pitting Turok against the villainous Primogen. It sounds like things are getting a bit gorier and tougher, with features like blood-streaked walls and real-time lighting effects. Crucially, they spill the beans on the multiplayer, which supports up to 4 players in team modes, deathmatch, and something called fragtag. The 2 screenshots show some explosive action and atmospheric environments, confirming it looks rather spiffing. Down at the bottom, there are a couple more news bites. UB1 reports on Ubisoft's plans for a new Formula 1 racer, F1 Racing 98, aiming to make up for their previous F1 title and promising authenticity. Finally, So Cute It Hurts reveals Konami is busy, not only with ice hockey, but also a beat-em-up called Rakuga Kids, described as having a style similar to Parappa the Rapper, and involving fighting with graffiti. Sounds delightfully bonkers. This page continues the news from issue 15, emblazoned with the headline, "And it's go, go, go." The main focus is on World Grand Prix, an upcoming Formula 1 simulator from Paradigm, the chaps behind Pilotwings. It sounds like this is aiming to be a proper F1 sim, a much-needed addition, given the rather limited offerings on the N64 so far. The article chatters about authentic racing with decisions on fuel and tires, all the real tracks from the 1997 season, plus ghost cars for chasing those lap times, and even a 2-player mode. Apparently the visuals look stunning, so realistic you can almost catch a whiff of burnt rubber during replays. Sounds rather promising. Thomas. There are a couple of screenshots showing F1 cars battling it out on track, under the last lap banner, Over on the side there's a list of upcoming games slated for release throughout the rest of 1998. Down at the bottom there are a couple more bites of news. One snippet cheekily notes that the gaming world is moving on from calling things hires and resolution, with res being the new cool term, apparently thanks to Acclaim. The final piece announces Bomberman Hero, which sounds like a Bond-inspired adventure, where Bomberman has to rescue a queen and gets to muck about in various vehicles. Sounds like a potentially fun twist on the classic. N64 RPG preview, He's Not the Son of God, focuses on Quest 64. Players take on the role of Brian, using elemental magic to combat a villainous wizard on the expansive Setland Island. The preview highlights impressive graphics, numerous characters, and a dynamic time system. Other news includes a possible racing game, Roadsters 98, and rumors of a PlayStation fighting game, Fighting Force, potentially making its way to the N64. The page also features a list of upcoming games for late 1998 and 1999. This page dives into a colorful new platformer from Infogrames called Space Circus. Total 64 are rolling out the red carpet for this one, introducing us to Starshot, a plucky chap who can apparently jump, swim, throw stars and even fly. His mission involves traversing 7 different universes, packed with 360 worlds, featuring creatures as bizarre as Baywatch babes and giant mounds of cheese. The game promises a non-linear adventure, letting you explore the weird and wonderful worlds in any order you fancy, which sounds rather liberating. The screenshots certainly look vibrant, showcasing tropical islands and gravity-free zones. Elsewhere on the page, there's a quick look at bringing Need for Speed 2i to the N64. The general feeling seems to be temper your expectations, especially if you saw the PlayStation version. And Titus are apparently working on a 3D action game based on Blues Brothers 2000 for release next year, which, alright, let's just see how that one turns out, shall we? There's also a list of various other games lurking in the pipeline, covering a mix of genres and developers, suggesting plenty more is on the horizon for the console. This page leads with the much-anticipated Banjo-Kazooie, sadly bringing the news of a delay. Originally slated for an August release in the UK, it's now looking like a September launch. Whilst a bummer for eager fans, the magazine takes solace in the fact that it's a rare game, implying the delay means it'll be polished to perfection and something truly special when it finally arrives. The article is accompanied by some rather tasty new screenshots of Banjo and his feathered friend, showcasing the game's vibrant and detailed world. Below the Banjo-Kazooie section are several more screenshots showing what looks like various other games, including perhaps Crash Bandicoot and something puzzle-related. To the left, there's a handy list of upcoming games with estimated release months, spanning from May right through to November 1998, culminating with The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time. There's also a list of games marked as TBA, indicating they're in the pipeline but without a firm date yet. Down the bottom there's a little update on GT Interactive's plans after acquiring rights for Beavis and Butthead and Aeon Flux, confirming an action shooter based on Aeon Flux is now in development. Sounds intriguing. And finally, a look at Human Software's Airboarders, described as snowboarding without the white stuff, taking inspiration from Back to the Future's hoverboard. Definitely one to watch out for, especially as they're currently seeking a publisher. This page is packed with news, leading with Nintendo's rather frank admission that they need to get their act together against the competition. The big headline is they're splitting their operations into 3 distinct regions, giving Europe full control over marketing and distribution. Finally, someone sees sense. This is all apparently part of a push to get third parties on board, highlighted by a big developer meeting in Rome. They're hyping up the potential for games of GoldenEye quality, and name-dropping exciting upcoming titles like Turok 2, Mission Impossible, and yes, our delayed pal Banjo-Kazooie, plus The Legend of Zelda 64 DD, naturally. Seems they're trying to make the N64 a more attractive place for developers, and quite right too. Mission. Elsewhere, there's a little feature asking if you can spot the difference between a real photograph of a baseball stadium and a screenshot from All-Star 99, under a rather enthusiastic new screens banner. Frankly, it makes the N64 graphics look pretty darn convincing. Down at the bottom we get a look at some diverse screenshots, including what appears to be a surfing game, maybe even that Airboarders title from the previous page. Over on the right, there's a list of various upcoming N64 games currently in development, giving us a peek at what's heading our way. Plenty of interesting titles there to look forward to. This page is a cracking advert offering a total saving of £15 on GoldenEye 007. Grab it for £34.99 with a free special reserve membership and exclusive Total 64 offer. This page is a cracking advert offering a total saving of £15 on GoldenEye 007. Grab it for £34.99 with a free special reserve membership and exclusive Total 64 offer. This page delves into the weird and wonderful world of Pokémon Snap. The preview talks about how computer games and photography haven't exactly been bosom buddies, but Nintendo is about to unleash something unexpected on the 64DD. The premise? It's a photo safari game where you snap pics of pocket monsters in their natural habitat. The reviewer is surprised Nintendo didn't go down the RPG or beat-em-up route, opting instead for what they call the world's first photo-em-up. Apparently, it's not just pointing and clicking. You'll need skill and timing to coax the creatures into striking the perfect pose. The screenshots show off some familiar faces like Pikachu and Meowth, looking rather cute, though the reviewer sarcastically questions wanting to photograph one, and a surprisingly grumpy-looking Snorlax chilling by a tree. The preview mentions the game is expected around Christmas time and comes on the 64DD format. It sounds like a unique twist on the hugely popular Pocket Monsters phenomenon, coming to the 64DD alongside other titles. The next page continues the preview of Pokémon Snap, offering more insight into how this unique photo safari game works. It explains that getting the best pictures isn't just about aiming. You'll need to use items like food to lure Pokémon closer, or play a flute to make them strike a pose. Apparently, you even need to throw rocks at bushes to get flying creatures into view, adding layers to the gameplay. The reviewer suggests getting good shots will take skill and potentially lead to some frustration as you learn the ropes. Overall, Total 64 seems impressed, calling Pokémon Snap something rather special and a testament to the N64 being a platform for innovative ideas. The page is filled with screenshots showing off the graphics, featuring a grumpy Meowth close-up, a lounging Snorlax, some Pikachus in the distance, and a small blue creature, possibly Squirtle, that needs luring for a better photo opportunity. This page dives into the world of Tonic Trouble, a platform/action-adventure game that Total 64 has been tracking since issue 9. It kicks off by setting the scene. A clumsy alien named Ed drops some extraterrestrial goo on Earth, causing mutations and allowing a nasty chap called Grory the Hellish to take over. Your job, naturally, is to control Ed, described as a friendly but maybe slightly awkward alien, to sort out this mess. The review highlights that the gameplay takes inspiration from Mystical Ninja and Mario 64, but apparently, it pushes the genre further with detailed rendered graphics and a strong cartoon vibe. The developers seem to have gone wild with their imagination, creating varied locations like deserts, woods and mountains, plus some interesting character designs. Apparently, Ed won't just be walking everywhere, he'll be getting about using various transport methods, including flying a plane through a lava canyon, and even sledging down a mountain. The screenshots show off some of these quirky environments, including the aforementioned lava-filled area, and some bizarre-looking creatures. There's also a little box detailing the lowdown, confirming it's published by Ubisoft, developed in-house, and was expected for a September '98 release on cartridge. Looks like it's shaping up to be a proper charming adventure, eh? This page wraps up the feature on Tonic Trouble, discussing its impressive game engine which powers interactive environments and adaptable enemy AI. It seems the developers at Ubisoft have pulled out all the stops, creating backgrounds with hidden areas and movable elements, while the opponents are programmed to react dynamically to your actions. The writer expresses cautious optimism about whether the game can truly challenge the mighty Mario 64, but feels its success is pretty much guaranteed regardless. Dominating the bottom half of the page is a rather large advert for Madeira Games, who are flogging us N64 and PlayStation consoles and all the latest import games, along with standard PSX titles. They also stock controllers, memory cards, and even DVD players like the Pioneer DV505. Apparently they guarantee next-day delivery, which is handy if you need your gaming fix in a hurry. The next page is all about Rev Limit, apparently the racing game the N64 has been waiting for. The headline screams for attention, promising the ultimate driving game. We get a look at 3 screenshots showing the action, including a rather fetching dashboard view. It seems this game has been in development for ages, practically since the magazine started, but the hope is, Seta have been grafting away to make it a real gem. They're promising features like night and rain effects, which sounds rather lovely, and even a management option, which could add a nice bit of depth. There's a glimpse of 3 high-performance cars set to feature in the game, giving us a taste of the garage. The lowdown confirms Seta is publishing, it's developed in-house, and the release date is, frustratingly, still TBA on cartridge. The big worry hanging over the game, however, is speed. Reports have surfaced suggesting it lacks pace, which for a racing game is a bit of a disaster, isn't it? SETA are reportedly trying to fix this, and we can only hope they manage it. Fingers crossed it lives up to the hype and isn't just a pretty set of screenshots. This page dives into the glorious destruction offered by Rampage World Tour. The headline screams exactly what you get: climbing buildings and knocking the living daylights out of them as giant monsters. The magazine reckons the marketing is a bit obvious, tying into the general buzz around oversized creatures, but hey, it leads to updating a classic arcade game for the N64. The core idea is simple and brilliant. Pick your beast, like Lizzie the Trex, George the Gorilla, or Ralph the Werewolf, and just cause absolute chaos across the globe. There are power-ups to help you along, including transforming into a violent, enraged, radioactive nemesis, which sounds utterly delightful. The lowdown gives us the key facts. It's published by GT Interactive, developed by Midway, and was expected out in June '98 on cartridge. While the reviewer admits it's not the most innovative game ever, essentially being a souped UP version of an old arcade title, the prospect of smashing things up with friends in multiplayer sounds like a cracking good time, especially with N64's Rumble Pack compatibility. Looks like a fun, mindless clobbering session awaits. This page is all about the N64 preview for Mission Impossible. The striking image on the page sets the scene, showing a spy-type character hunched over a computer, looking rather intent, surrounded by some futuristic-looking server gear. The title, Mission I, dominates the page in big red letters, leaving no doubt what we're here to talk about. There's a specific date and time mentioned: Tuesday, March 31st, 11:57 a.m., adding a bit of intrigue, like a briefing time or a critical moment in the game. The quoted text below, "Good morning, Mr. Phillips," followed by a slightly frantic message about getting up and seeing the movie in France, feels very much like a classic spy mission briefing that's gone slightly off-kilter. It clearly leans into the movie's vibe. This page is serving up a first look at how the classic spy franchise is shaping up on the N64, suggesting players are in for some espionage action. It's building the atmosphere right from the get-go. This page continues the Mission Impossible preview, completing the title with a massive Impossible splashed across the screen in bold red letters. The artwork here gives us a clear look at the environment and potential gameplay. We see a character, just a dark silhouette, hanging upside down from the ceiling, which screams classic spy infiltration. They're suspended above a futuristic room, all sleek lines and industrial paneling, with various glowing lights, looking every bit like a high-security facility Ethan Hunt might need to sneak into. This really sets the tone for some sneaky espionage action on the N64. The top banner confirms it's still the Impossible preview, along with the iconic N64 controller icon, just in case you weren't sure which console we were talking about. Definitely looks like we're in for some tension. This page continues the Mission Impossible preview, picking up with a rather dramatic recounting of the author's journey to the Infogrames offices in Lyon, France, apparently fueled by a post-party headache and a mysterious answering machine message. We get a visual sequence of Ethan Hunt's plight via 4 screenshots at the top, showing him questioned, wrongly accused, contemplating his escape, and finally planning a cunning breakout. The article highlights the sheer dedication of the Infogrames team to the game, quoting the production director, Arthur Hauptmann, who is clearly passionate about bringing this spy caper to the N64. We're told the game has a tentative September '98 release date in the US, and the developers are confident the wait will be worth it. The preview makes a point of stating this isn't just another GoldenEye clone, promising something different from the typical shoot-'em-up action. Down below, we're treated to some more atmospheric shots, including a promotional pose of Ethan in a sharp suit, and an in-game view of what looks like a tense encounter near a huge industrial structure. The lowdown box gives us the essential facts. Infogrames publishing and developing in-house, aiming for a September '98 release on cartridge. Seems like they're really pulling out the stops for this one. This preview of the N64's Mission Impossible shows early concept sketches of various levels, including the famous installation opening sequence, Ethan on a train, and a sniper level in a London train station. The game emphasizes a spy simulation approach, focusing on realistic espionage and objectives rather than mindless action. It features a 20-mission campaign, with 7 already developed in impressive detail, including cinematic introductions and self-destructing tapes. The first level, an embassy party, puts Ethan in a waiter disguise to interact, negotiate, and outwit a rival spy. This page dives into a preview walkthrough of the embassy level from Mission Impossible on N64. It kicks off by showing the mission briefing and your list of objectives, which include finding a facemaker, some nausea powder, a drink, planting smoke generators, and nicking the ambassador's aide's identity to get into the restricted area. The screenshots guide you through mingling at the party, chatting to characters like Phelps who warned you about someone tracking you, heading to the bar to find the aide, and even having to play the piano to lure him downstairs. You'll then need to find some poison, slip it into his drink, wait for him to dash off to the loo, follow him and then knock him out. Careful though, there's a lady in there, and apparently she's a bit dodgy. The article mentions that while the embassy level was a strong initial idea for the whole game, they decided to add variety, showcasing screenshots from later levels like the Snowy Ice Storm mission, and a mole hunt mission set in dear old England, proving there's more to the game than just swanky parties and poisoned drinks. Even a mission failed screen looks decent, apparently. Mission Impossible is shaping up to be a challenging, realistic action game, requiring strategic thinking rather than mindless action. The preview highlights diverse gameplay elements beyond basic spy missions, including platforming, infiltration, and gunfights. Levels like an embassy and a Metal Gear Solid-esque installation are showcased, along with the pressure of gear loss and enemy encounters. The game emphasizes consequences, with failure resulting in penalties like a trip to Siberia. Explosive gum and gunboat battles add to the varied action. This page continues the deep dive into the Mission Impossible preview. It's made clear that while you can nab enemy weapons, they're loud as a noisy thing at a noise convention, and will just get you into trouble. The real spy's kit comes silenced, naturally, and the game really wants you to embrace stealth over trying to be a one-man army. Forget blasting everything, mate. Sometimes you just need to slip by. The page also shows off a few different facets of the gameplay. We see a snippet of Ethan's gear, being frustratingly behind a window, some rather explosive action with a gunboat, a daring jump onto a moving vehicle, and even the rather Swish World map screen highlighting the globe-trotting nature of the job. Then there's a section on the planned intro animations. It looks like the developers were putting some serious effort in, promising some of the best intros on the N64. We get glimpses of storyboard sketches showing classic spy tropes, Ethan potentially getting one of those famous self-destructing tapes, a chase scene, and even receiving a mission brief on a park bench. Proper spy stuff, not just running and gunning. This page delves further into the world of Mission Impossible, kicking off with a look at the rather swanky arsenal of gadgets you'll get your hands on. We're talking sleeper darts, gas injectors, night glasses, proper spy gear that make old Bond a bit jealous, even if there is an Uzi pictured that looks like it'd blow your cover faster than wearing a neon sign. The review strongly pushes the idea that this isn't your typical run and gun. The game actively encourages a stealthy approach, even giving you on-screen hints like, try the silent approach, which is apparently the key to impressing your mates. However, if things go south, you can still lob a grenade or resort to fisticuffs, so action fans shouldn't despair. It sounds like the game packs in a surprising amount of variety too. Beyond the standard sneaking, there are levels putting you in the shoes of a sniper protecting Ethan, a gunboat section where you blast away enemy installations, and even the iconic movie moment of dropping into HQ via an air duct. Plus, you'll get helpful tips from your team along the way, like Jack Kiefer, who's apparently the go-to guy for a smooth getaway. Looks like plenty to sink your teeth into if you're after more than just straightforward shooting. This page continues the deep dive into Mission Impossible on the N64, featuring a look at the game's current state and, crucially, an interview with production director Arthur Hauptmann. The debriefing section highlights that while graphics and sound are still getting polished, the game's already looking pretty special with some nice effects. The music, rather than trying to be a modern GoldenEye Bond ripoff, leans into the original 60s TV show vibe, which apparently works wonders for tension and atmosphere. Down below, mister. Hauptmann spills the beans. He reckons the game is a unique beast, a blend of adventure, action and arcade styles, all mixed up with some fun gadgets. Speaking of which, the iconic facemaker is in there, along with explosive chewing gum and night vision glasses. Sounds like you'll be well equipped for spy shenanigans. When asked about comparisons to GoldenEye, Hauptmann positions Mission Impossible as more of a spy simulator, suggesting stealth is often the smarter play when outnumbered. The third-person perspective is also mentioned as adding to the cinematic feel. As for the rumor about disguising as a waiter, it sounds like the facemaker is indeed used for infiltration, though you'll need to find the right chap to copy, and the mask doesn't last forever. Apparently the game avoids gratuitous violence, focusing instead on the realities of spy work where things can get messy, but not just for the sake of it. Sounds like a solid preview that covers the bases. The next page continues the mission, Impossible Preview, asking the crucial question, what's it actually like to play? The reviewer found it a tense and involving experience, though noted the learning curve and enemy AI were still works in progress, something Infogrames was actively addressing to make foes react more realistically. They were keen to make it more than just a movie cash-in, aiming for a game that captured the essence of the franchise. There's clear excitement that it isn't just a cheap GoldenEye ripoff, promising a potentially fantastic game upon its release later this year. Down below, the interview with Arthur Hauptmann continues, listing some rather cool gadgets like nausea powder and a gunboat with 4-inch cannons. He discusses how Ethan works with his team, sometimes providing them gear, sometimes switching control to another operative to help out. Sadly, for those hoping for head-to-head action, he confirms there is no multiplayer mode whatsoever, stating it simply doesn't fit the game's style. Finally, he mentions other Infogrames projects like Space Circus and some Looney Tunes games, and gives a rough release window, targeting E3 in Atlanta, followed by a Saturn launch. The next page dives into a preview of International Superstar Soccer 98. Front and center is a massive title graphic, making it clear what we're here to talk about. The text immediately sets the scene, noting the upcoming World Cup and the glut of football games, but confidently states that this is the one everyone's waiting for, coming from Konami, who are pretty much kings of the genre. We get a look at the game, with 2 screenshots. The first shows a standard match view with a scoreline of 21, while the second appears to be a specific moment, maybe after a goal or a penalty, showing a 0-4 score and some player details. Below these, the article reinforces the immense popularity of the previous ISS 64, even suggesting the magazine staff might have played it a little too much. It touches on the improvements in the new version, highlighting smoother player animations and more realistic movement, rather than just a massive graphical overhaul. The focus, it seems, is on refining the already excellent gameplay mechanics, addressing the one major criticism of the original, that it was perhaps a bit too easy once you'd mastered it. There's also a handy The Lowdown box, listing the publisher, developer, format, and the all-important TBA release date. Looks like Konami is aiming to keep their football crown firmly in place. The next page carries on with the International Superstar Soccer 98 preview, diving into the nitty-gritty of the gameplay changes Konami's made. They've apparently completely revamped the tackling, making it much easier to win the ball back, but without ruining the ability to run with it. Good stuff? Means you can still skin a defender if you're clever. North Cheshire. The article also mentions keeping all the old special moves and adding some new ones, like a rather handy feint. Crucially, they seem to have sorted out those annoying soft goals from the previous game, which is a relief. Free kicks look a bit different too, with a handy aiming display shown in one screenshot. The big news though, is the deep player editing. The page shows off screens where you can pick a player's position, name, height, a new feature apparently, preferred foot, and even assign skill points across different attributes. You can literally build your own star striker, perhaps making yourself the next big thing for England, as the text cheekily suggests. The page rounds off with a screenshot of the full-time results screen, packed with stats to pore over. Looks like Konami is really refining the formula here. This page continues the preview for International Superstar Soccer 98, reassuring us that even though Konami couldn't get the official player names, it's dead easy to figure out who's who just from their appearance. The game adds some clever gameplay tweaks, like weather and team morale influencing player performance, making tactical decisions and even home advantage feel more impactful. Set pieces have been refined too, with a clear trajectory display for free kicks and corners, which should help land those crucial goals. Plus, the addition of a motivational factor, allowing you to select a team captain, adds another layer to team management. The bottom section, Play How You Like, truly highlights the game's sheer depth of options. It shows off various menus, including the main select screen, with modes like the International Cup, the World Cup in all but name, League, and Scenario modes. There are screens for setting handicaps, managing team tactics and player substitutions, editing formations with both presets and custom options, and selecting stadiums, including several new ones from the actual World Cup. It seems Konami's are giving players loads of ways to customize their footballing experience. This page continues the preview for International Superstar Soccer 98, throwing down the gauntlet by suggesting Konami are attempting to improve upon the most addictive football game ever made. We learn more about the refined tactics system, building on the ISS-64 method using the key buttons, expanding the options considerably with 16 different tactics available, 6 of which can be taken into the match. The developers are promising a refined experience, with smoother graphics and all-new commentary from Tony Guba. They've packed in a massive 54 teams for you to choose from. The screenshots show off some nice touches, like the electronic board for substitutions just like the real thing, different camera angles for gameplay, some potentially making it harder, and flexible replay views. It's clear Konami is aiming high, although Electronic Arts are mentioned as competition with their officially licensed World Cup title. This page dives headfirst into the world of Forsaken, an N64 first-person shoot-'em-up looking to shake things up. Compared to genre heavyweights like Doom, Duke Nukem, and the mighty GoldenEye, this one promises a fresh take on blasting everything in sight. Set in a post-apocalyptic future, where Earth is a wasteland, you play as a mercenary scavenging the planet's dangerous underground. The big draw here is the true 3D environment giving you full freedom of movement, which sounds like it could be utterly disorientating but brilliant fun. The preview highlights the variety in the underground levels, praising their detailed texture mapping and smooth graphics, promising none of that monotonous tunnel design you might find elsewhere. Screenshots showcase a fiery lava-filled area, a look at the game's options menu, thrilling stuff apparently, a shot of the player's craft in action, and glimpses of other distinct tunnel designs. Published by Acclaim and developed by Iguana/Probe, it certainly looks like a chaotic ride where failure isn't an option, unless you accidentally hit the wrong button, leading to a fiery demise, naturally. The next page continues the deep dive into Forsaken, showing off some rather fetching character models of the bounty hunters you'll likely encounter, or perhaps players, looking suitably tough and futuristic naturally. We get a closer look at the gameplay with several screenshots, including one suggesting a moment of relaxation for the mercenaries in a fancy jacuzzi, because even planet scavengers need a spa day. The preview touches on the controls, stating they follow the standard first-person shooter formula but bigging up the ability to strafe vertically, which is key for that full 3D movement we heard about. Weaponry sounds impressive, with a potential arsenal of 16 different types at your disposal, ready for any situation. The lighting effects get a shout-out for adding to the gloomy atmosphere, making those dark tunnels feel suitably eerie, combined with incidental noises and the soundtrack. But perhaps the most exciting bit is the multiplayer, hailed as a masterpiece that runs smoothly, even with 4 players battling it out in split screen. It's even put in the same league as GoldenEye for multiplayer fun, which is high praise indeed. Seems Acclaim and Iguana/Probe really pushed the N64 with this one. This page continues the deep dive into Forsaken, getting right into the nitty-gritty of the gameplay and multiplayer. Apparently the weapons don't just pew-pew, they actually light up the tunnel walls as you zoom past, adding a nice touch to the gloomy atmosphere we heard about last time. The main focus here is the multiplayer, which is still being hyped up massively. They call it the only multiplayer game to come close to GoldenEye, which is fighting talk indeed. It offers a proper GoldenEye-style deathmatch for up to 4 players, and crucially, it runs fast and smooth even with everyone zipping around trying to blow each other up. The reviewer was apparently promptly amazed by its speed and smoothness in a 4-player deathmatch test run. Beyond the deathmatch there are 2 other game types mentioned, although not detailed here. The single-player mode dishes out missions like blowing up shield generators to progress. There's also talk about the different cyberbikes having different stats, like Clark Cuvels being fast but fragile, or lorries being tough but slow. Choosing your ride adds a bit of strategy. And finally, they show off some rather spectacular explosion effects. The blinder from too many explosives, a yellow flash when your shields are dropping, a white light from a massive Titan explosion, and rather grimly, what's left of your player when you lose. Brutal. This page jumps into the nitty-gritty of Forsaken, showing off the weapons and some rather tricky enemy AI. Apparently your arsenal packs a punch, and the mines look pretty sharp too. The enemies aren't just dim-witted targets. They're described as having particularly high eye, making them quite cunning. You might even find yourself face-to-face with a virtual droid when you least expect it. Warrington Nolsa Hazme. The game seems to favor strategy over just blasting everything in sight, focusing on brains over brawn. It's pitched as bringing something fresh to the N64 first-person shooter scene, blending arcade action with free-roaming levels. They double down on the addictive multiplayer option, which sounds promising given the hype from the previous page. The reviewer seems pretty impressed, calling it one of the best games you'll see all summer. The screenshots give a good look at the varied environments and the explosive action. Ultimately, they sum it up nicely. It's got Everything guns, bombs and class. Smart! This page is all about the official World Cup '98 game preview. It kicks off by pointing out that while PlayStation owners are drowning in football games, N64 players are only getting two big ones. '98 and this one, World Cup '98. Don't think having fewer means less quality though, apparently that's simply not the case here. The magazine preempts the obvious question. Why is EA putting out another football game so soon after their last one? The answer? It's the World Cup, you divvy. It's described as looking similar to its predecessor, but Electronic Arts are quick to stress that World Cup '98 is a completely separate beast. They've taken feedback from the last game, sorting out annoying things like getting caught offside from a goal kick, thankfully. The whole gameplay has had a serious overhaul, and you can expect those trademark spectacular special moves. Down at the bottom you get the lowdown on the game's details. EA are publishing and developing it, and it's due in June '98 on cartridge naturally. Screenshots show players celebrating, team lineups, and some goalmouth action. This page continues the look at World Cup '98, confirming that yes, this summer is all about football, especially with England potentially making a decent run for once. The game promises a blend of accessibility for newcomers, while still rewarding dedicated players who delve into the more complex controls, much like the FIFA series before it. Apparently, EA has crammed in new special moves, including a flashy ball juggle to leave defenders looking foolish, and you can even adjust your team's tactics on the fly, like setting up an offside trap. There's also talk of attacking moves, giving strikers the ability to spin away from markers, making the improved through ball even more devastating. The review seems impressed, noting the game continues the FIFA style where mastering the controls pays off. They highlight EA's compression touch technology, sounds fancy doesn't it, which allegedly makes players react instantly, fixing a common gripe from previous FIFA games where there was a noticeable delay between your input and the on-screen action. Graphically the game looks pretty sharp too, with screenshots showing everything from goalmouth scrambles and goalkeepers pulling off saves, to what looks suspiciously like Alan Shearer mid-air. Sounds like Alan Shearer might just have nailed it this time. This page continues the deep dive into World Cup '98, really hammering home how much detail EA is packing in. Not only are all 10 stadiums from across France accurately reproduced, but the graphics promise faithful kits for all 32 teams, and even detailed faces, though maybe not exactly like their real-life counterparts. They've even got shirts blowing in the wind, which is a nice touch, adding a bit of realism, even if it's purely aesthetic. Gameplay-wise, they've apparently ironed out some of the disjointedness from earlier FIFA titles, partly thanks to that compression touch technology we heard about, which also allows you to switch between a realistic speed and more arcade-style settings. Scoring goals against weaker teams gets you interactive celebrations where your players look chuffed, and hitting a dramatic equalizer in the semi-final against Germany leads to a full-blown pillion, just like the real thing. They've also improved the goalkeepers and enhanced the in-game management, giving you the option to tweak the 32 preset squads and even create your own players. Looks like EA is serious about making this the definitive football game this summer. This page continues the look at World Cup '98, and EA is really stressing that this is a totally separate beast from FIFA, built from the ground up over a year. They've crammed in loads of management options, letting you tweak tactics, formations, and even individual player instructions, like making them tackle like Vinnie Jones. You can apparently fiddle with every player stat too, which sounds pretty in-depth for N64. There's even a bonus mode, featuring classic World Cup finals from history, which is unlocked by winning the tournament. They've gone for realism everywhere, from the footballing fashions and dubious haircuts, to the commentary from Kenneth Wolstenholme and authentic crowd sounds for every nation, including that unique Jamaican noise. It sounds like a proper World Cup carnival, and the reviewer is genuinely excited, saying it's the next best thing to being there. This page kicks off with a preview of GT Club, the first N64 racer to grab an official GT license, hoping to replicate the success of its PlayStation cousin. The magazine is clearly excited, suggesting they're really looking forward to this smart racing game. It delves into the world of Gran Turismo, explaining it's a popular Japanese spectator sport, with drivers strapping themselves into souped UP streetcars for races on various tracks, from city streets to custom-built circuits. The game features different levels of competition, starting with the Sunday Cup for slightly modified road cars, moving up to special events with larger cars and bigger prizes, and finally the Super League, where it's all about the fastest cars, biggest engines and body kits, promising big cash and plenty of spectators. The game boasts 14 street rods to choose from, ranging from an NSX to a Lamborghini. It gets pretty technical, offering detailed rundowns on each vehicle and allowing you to fine-tune everything from the gear ratio to spoiler downforce before hitting the track for a test run. Screenshots show cars on city and track environments, with captions like, "Sudden corners aren't the best place to test the brakes," and "There's always a rush for the last parking space," hinting at intense racing moments. The lowdown box lists Infogrames as the publisher, Imagineer as the developer, a July 98 expected release date, and cartridge format. It sounds like a deep dive into realistic racing for the N64. This page continues the GT Club preview, digging deeper into the racing action. After sorting out your car with the detailed machine setting tuning options, where you can tweak everything from suspension to spoilers, you're ready to hit the track. The preview details the race modes: time trial, the familiar solo challenge, battle mode for one-on-one racing, and championship, where you pick your circuit, cars, and lap count. Screenshots show helpful track signage and the rolling start to avoid pesky wheel spin. And for the car enthusiasts, the showroom features a selection of splendidly reproduced models available in the game, including legendary rides like the Calsonic Skyline, Castrol Kurumo Supra, and various other tricked-out Skylines, Supras, NSXS, and the Nissan 300ZX GTS. Looks like a solid offering for N64 racing fans. This page dives deeper into GT Club, confirming you get long and short versions of the initial Tokyo, Lake Fuji, and Kyoto GP Track 6 circuits ready to go, with more on the way. The championship mode sounds standard enough. Qualify against 7 others, race, earn points over 6 events for your final rank. They've even included a detailed technical rundown on each car, right down to the tire tread, which is either incredibly cool or utterly pointless depending on your level of automotive geekery. The tracks themselves are praised for avoiding dullness, particularly the city courses, and the graphics sound pretty slick too, with realistic team names, billboards, and clever texture mapping making the game feel fast and believable. While the physics apparently add realism, it seems you can still manage impressive power slides, suggesting a slight arcade edge despite the detailed visuals. Plus, you get various camera options, including one rather oddly named Hedgehog's Eye View. This page continues the deep dive into GT Club, showing off various screenshots of the game's interface and action. You get a look at the in-game HUD with lap times, position, and speed, plus glimpses of the track map and car selection screens, complete with driver stats. The text throws out some interesting tips, like the slightly chaotic advice to crash into backmarkers if they're in your way. It also highlights that all your essential car info is conveniently displayed on screen. The reviewer notes that twisty courses are a good thing here as they help reduce pop-up, which was always a bit of a pain back then. The gameplay is described as needing skill beyond just speed, requiring a proper feel for handling the cars without decorating the barriers. While the sound effects, particularly the engine noise, might be a bit repetitive but accurate, the music apparently hits the right notes. Overall, the preview sounds very positive, praising the graphics, the cars, and the customizable options. It seems GT Club is shaping up to be a promising realistic racer for the N64, and the reviewer is pretty excited about it, suggesting racing fans should be too. There's even a mention of potentially weird camera angles, like one they question the usefulness of. Total 64's revamped website features a new look, focusing on key game information. The 64mation section details upcoming titles, including release regions and formats. The lowdown provides publisher/developer, release date, and media details. A new first impressions section offers initial gameplay insights, while Control Freak analyzes controls. Info boxes now list technical specs like memory and rumble pack support. Review scores are now single numbers instead of percentages. Finally, the reviews roundup showcases bite-sized game summaries and scores, highlighting Diddy Kong Racing's impressive 93. This page dives straight into the reviews section, proudly declaring the truth. Total 64. It helpfully lays out the scoring system, explaining what scores from 90,100 down to 019 actually mean for your wallet and playtime. Essentially, whether a game is a must-buy classic or something you should probably avoid like the plague. We're introduced to the games hitting the review bench this month: the realistic slopes of 1080 degrees snowboarding, the bizarre world of Mystical Ninja, the unique puzzle action of Wheatrix, pictured with its weirdly adorable character, the N64 adaptation of Tamagotchi World, and a look at the classic Robotron 64. To cap it off, there's a rundown of what games the Total 64 crew, including Nick, Simon, Ant, and Jet, have been enjoying in their spare time, along with a reader's chart from Thomas. It seems 1080 degrees snowboarding and Weetrix are quite popular picks among the team this month. This page kicks off the review of 1080 degrees snowboarding, as teased on the last page. The info box gives us the lowdown. It's a snowboarding sim for 12 players, developed and published by Nintendo themselves, on a chunky 128 MB cartridge. It uses battery backup to save your progress and supports the Rumble Pack. The review opens with a rather unique analogy, stating that if the reviewer eats too many cakes and is fat, then 1080 degrees snowboarding is the rum baba of the video game world. Apparently, it's fat. There's a handy control freak diagram breaking down the N64 pad, showing exactly which buttons do what for tearing up the digital slopes. The review notes that a backwards view is useful in two-player mode, and jokes that you can't have a racing game without a helicopter intro these days, which this game clearly features. It praises Nintendo for releasing a game not overtly aimed at kids and highlights the polished front end and character select screen. The page is finished off with 3 smaller screenshots showing the game in action. This page continues the look at 1080 degrees snowboarding, starting with some glowing first impressions. Turns out, everyone in the office was completely bowled over by the visuals and how realistic the snow looked. Dominating the top half is a massive boarding title graphic, along with some large screenshots showing off the game's action and one of the characters up close. Below that, the review gets into the nitty-gritty of actually playing the darn thing. The reviewer notes that despite seeing loads of games, 1080 degrees takes the N64 visuals up a gear, and then some. The most impressive thing, apparently, is the level of realism in the snow. There are 3 main types: powder, off-piste, hard snow, and ice. Each reacts differently. Powder sounds particularly good, making you cut through it up to your waist. Falling into deep snow or onto ice is a completely different ballgame compared to the easy-to-board hard stuff. Nintendo also seems to have taken great care to make the character faces as realistic as possible, even though you don't see them often. Finally, the page looks at how the weather conditions drastically alter the gameplay. There are screenshots and descriptions for snow, blizzard, sunny, sunset, and nighttime, each adding a unique flavor to the course. Snow and blizzards make visibility a nightmare, sunny requires shades, sunset is beautiful, and nighttime just adds variety. Performing stunts is highlighted as netting major style points. This page continues the review of 1080 degrees snowboarding, diving into the camera options and gameplay mechanics. It highlights the 4 camera views available: chase, above, in-head, and backwards, each serving a specific purpose whether you're racing or just messing about. The reviewer is clearly impressed with the attention to detail, pointing out the incredibly realistic character animations, right down to clothing ruffling in the wind when you're pulling off massive jumps. Jolly good show, Nintendo. The sound design also gets a nod, from the varied music soundtrack to the crunch of snow under your board. Control is handled via the analog stick, which the reviewer finds perfectly suited for nailing those tight turns. However, not everything is perfect. Despite coming so close to genius, the game is let down by the fact the overall experience doesn't last long enough. A rather significant niggle mentioned is the difficulty in landing jumps correctly. Your board doesn't automatically level out in the air, meaning you'll likely stack it unless you perfectly match the slope on landing. This is seen as a rather crucial snowboarding element Nintendo somehow overlooked. The frame rate is also noted as a bit inconsistent, but oddly dismissed as a minor flaw, because the game just looks so darn good. The page also features a large image of a boarder, and a screenshot of the finish line with a caption about crashing if you mess up the big make. This page continues the review of 1080 degrees snowboarding, immediately showing off some action screenshots, one demonstrating the damage when you take a tumble, and another highlighting the claim that such spectacular graphics are exclusive to the N64. Apparently, keeping the speed up in 2-player meant reducing character detail. A worthy sacrifice, perhaps. The review reiterates the praise for the wonderfully instinctive and realistic control method before diving into the courses. You start with 3, but the real fun begins when you unlock more by winning the main match race mode, opening up alternative routes and letting you roam freely across rocky sides, roofs, and through the forest. Splendid. However, the main sticking point here is the limited number of tracks, only 6 in total. While they're described as superbly designed, the reviewer clearly feels you'd expect a bit more for your quid, especially considering the limited content. Finally, Simon weighs in, concurring that the visuals and near-perfect handling make it the best snowboarding game on any platform. But alas, it's deemed a flawed diamond, suffering from the dreaded beast slowdown, that inconsistent frame rate we heard about, and questionable longevity once you've rinsed through the courses. Despite this, Simon reckons it's still definitely worth a look, just perhaps not the absolute masterpiece they were hoping for. The page also showcases the various courses you can shred, from Crystal Lake to the ominously named Deadly Fall, alongside a couple of character and scenery shots. This page kicks off with The Cheaty Monkey Says, which is your go-to source for secrets, detailing how to unlock the penguin board, crystal border, metallic border, and even a panda border. It gives you the button sequences and conditions needed. Looks like you'll need to put in some serious time beating bosses and mastering tricks to get these fancy unlocks. Over on the right, the review continues, noting that while the lens flare looks nice, it might just blind you at the worst possible moment. Perhaps sunglasses are required. The text mentions the 3 main races and unlocking the crystal border, but echoes the sentiment that while the game's fantastic while it lasts, it's apparently completable in just a weekend. There's also a shout out to the trick mode, where it's all about racking up points. Warren Teshaw. Below that is Jet's comment, a personal take that absolutely raves about the game's initial impact, praising the incredible detail like snowboard trails and wind effects, plus the cracking sense of speed and realistic physics, explaining how different snow types affect your ride. However, Jet does point out the downsides. The game's simply too short and the board breaks far too easily. Despite these flaws, Jet boldly declares it the best ever snowboarding game ever, and urges you to buy it ASAP. The bottom also showcases screenshots, highlighting the believable snow effects like spray from cutting through snow and ice. The next page gives us the lowdown on the riders you can pick from in 1080-degree snowboarding, much like choosing your water warrior in Wave Race 64. You've got Kensuke Kimachi, a solid all-rounder ideal for beginners, Dion Blaster who's the fastest but tricky, Rob Haywood who's the expert's choice with speed and stunts, Akari Hayami the easiest to control for newcomers, and Ricky Winterborn the trick guru. Lutway. The review text highlights the game's flexibility for pulling tricks anywhere on the slopes, which is a step up from some other snowboarding games apparently. The game is technically brilliant, with faultless graphics and sound, but the big issue seems to be the lack of content and replay value, especially with only a few courses. They note the 2-player mode takes a toll on the N64's power. Despite its brilliance at times, making you glow with a pink haze, the short lifespan lets it down. The verdict confirms this. High scores for graphics and sound, 9 each, and playability, 8, but lastability only gets a 7, leading to an overall score of 89. It's the best snowboarding game yet, but just misses perfection. This page dives into the utterly mental world of Mystical Ninja starring Goemon, finally gracing UK shores according to the blurb. Published and developed by Konami, this is an action RPG designed for one player, saving progress to a memory pack on a hefty 96 MB cartridge. Gia. The review sets the scene in 16th century Japan, where things are decidedly odd. Your mate has apparently flogged his clothes, a giant peach-shaped UFO is knocking about, and it seems to turn palaces into something looking vaguely European. All perfectly normal, right? Warrington no. The controls get a spotlight in the Control Freak section, breaking down how you'll be running, jumping, attacking, and messing about with the camera using the N64 pad. Apparently, the D-pad doesn't even get a look in, which is a bit lazy, isn't it? Go. Visually, the game sounds promising, described as, well, peachy, with the 3D environments doing a solid job of bringing this bizarre version of 16th century Japan to life. Screenshots scattered across the page show off the action, from battling what the caption calls killer gobstoppers, to swimming and interacting with other peculiar characters in equally peculiar settings. It looks like a proper Japanese-style adventure, stuffed full of weirdness and charm. This page delves deeper into the bizarre world of Mystical Ninja starring Goemon. The reviewer kicks off with their first impressions, admitting to being completely unfamiliar with the series, but instantly hooked by the opening sequences and the game's wonderfully weird humor and general mystical ninjaness. The main text elaborates on the game's connection to a television show and the utterly bonkers plot. It seems the story is incredibly convoluted, filled with twists and turns, which the reviewer attempts to explain as best they can. Apparently the villains are an evil group of dancers and singers, called the Momoyama Shoguns, who decide to kidnap all the children in Japan and turn them into dancers. Because of course that's a perfectly rational villainous plot. Screenshots show off more gameplay, including Goemon walking around what looks like a village area and interacting with other characters, plus a shot of combat with what appears to be a rather large, angry enemy. The whole affair sounds delightfully strange and entertaining. This page continues the delve into the wonderfully weird world of Mystical Ninja starring Goemon. The top screenshots show off more in-game dialogue, confirming the sheer oddity of the game's conversations. One caption notes Goemon gets angry if left unattended, while the other quotes Goemon himself claiming a fashionable pipe is the key to success and making ladies jealous. Right, a big red headline praises the game's subgames, calling them impressive and well thought out for breaking up any monotony. The main text continues discussing the plot, which involves a dastardly mission, a giant peach UFO for transport, naturally, and buildings being turned into monster things. There's also a section asking, "Do I know you?" explaining that while the series is huge in Japan, this N64 entry is one of the few to make it to Western shores, introducing Goemon, a very popular little fella, to a new audience. Below that, the "and in the red corner" section highlights the first major boss character. The review points out the game shifts genre for this, going from a 3D platformer to a first-person fighting game, even preceded by a Japanese pop song. The smaller screenshots illustrate this boss battle, showing off the enemy's various attacks like aerial assaults, rockets, and even projecting a duplicate of himself. Looks like a proper scrap. This page continues the look at Mystical Ninja starring Goemon, reassuring us it's more than just an RPG. The top screenshots demonstrate this variety, showing action combat, high impact doing his rollerblading thing, some platforming sections, and confirming it is indeed wrapped up in an RPG package. We also get some handy tips, like smashing pots for goodies, a classic, and seeking out Plasma Man, apparently the wisest bloke in the game if you get stuck. The text introduces Goemon's crew, the slightly eccentric Ebisumaru, the capable Ninja Ye who can turn into a mermaid, naturally, and the mechanical Sasuke. Under a bold headline pondering speaking and jumping, at the same time, the review muses on the game's genre-bending nature, mixing platforming, arcade bits, and RPG elements, though perhaps not with the depth of, say, Final Fantasy. Finally, Nick's comment weighs in, noting this is the N64's first RPG in ages, offering a unique blend of Mario 64-style platforming and strange Japanese narrative hijinks, with the high-impact battles being a highlight. It sounds like a weird but compelling adventure, perfect if you're keen to see what on earth is going on. This page continues the deep dive into Mystical Ninja starring Goemon, giving us Jet's final verdict. Initially underwhelmed, Jet quickly became hooked on the game's infectious charm, simple yet elegant gameplay, and humor, finding it utterly adorable despite the slightly dated graphics. We get a dedicated look at the main man, Big Joe, or rather the main robot, High Impact. Screenshots take us through summoning the giant mech, seeing him arrive with a song and a smile, and even jumping inside to pilot him, which is apparently a bit like exploring his innards. High-impact battles are highlighted as office favorites, bringing a touch of giant robot mayhem to the adventure. The review confirms the game's sprawling world is based on a map of Japan, taking you from safe villages to ancient towns, haunted castles, underwater escapades, and even into outer space. You'll need to chat with the locals for clues, though some translations might leave you scratching your head. Beyond the main quest, the game is packed with sub-games, from character boss fights, often featuring high impact, to quirky challenges like fishing, all designed to keep things fresh and prevent any hint of tedious RPG grinding. Handy tips like collecting silver cats for energy and knowing where you're allowed to enter are also pictured. The next page dives into the final verdict for Mystical Ninja starring Goemon. It features the iconic verdict box, complete with scores for graphics, sound, playability, lastability, and the overall rating. Graphically, it scores an 8, noted for being absolutely gorgeous despite some glitching. The sound gets a near-perfect 9, for its crazy, infectious tunes, daring you to listen. Playability also scores an 8, described as straightforward enough, providing plenty of variety and all-round fun. Lastability is the lowest score at a 6, suggesting that while the challenge isn't the greatest, once you're done, you're unlikely to return. Overall, the game bags an impressive 84%, lauded as a wonderful game that oozes with charm and playability. Great fun. There are a couple of screenshots illustrating gameplay, including one showing the game's UI with health and item counts, and another highlighting Goemon's pipe being used in various ways, like a grappling hook or a lady magnet, allegedly. The text reinforces the game's enjoyable nature and attention to detail, even highlighting the quirky character responses to different environments. It seems Konami really pulled out all the stops to make this a memorable adventure. This page features a review of the puzzle game Weetrix. Published by Ocean and developed by Z2, it's a 12-player puzzle game that uses a memory pack for saves and a 96 MB cartridge. The review kicks off by musing on the mystery of puzzle games. Why play them when they can be frustrating? But it argues that the best ones draw you back, offering a sense of mastery. On the N64, competition is light, with Weetrix stepping up as a sort of distant cousin to Tetris, following Tetrisphere's lead. Following Tetris 2 is credited with creating a game that captures the spirit and addictive nature of a classic puzzler, focusing on water management. There's a handy control freak diagram laying out which buttons do what, like using the analog stick and D-P-A-D for control, A to lower pieces and B to rotate. The C buttons handle camera angles, and Z is for two-player attacks. Start pauses, and the shoulder buttons aren't used here. Screenshots show off the game's colorful, isometric 3D world. One highlights the score and level, another captures a rainbow effect earned from collecting water, which means more points apparently, though sadly Zippy isn't present. The review notes that some challenge levels are quite tough, even for newcomers. It sounds like a promising entry in the N64's relatively sparse puzzle genre. This page continues the review of Weetrix, and it seems the reviewer remains rather smitten. The game's visual style and music are highlighted as a pleasant surprise on the N64, giving it a more mature vibe than many other titles, with tunes sounding more like something you'd hear down a club. The core gameplay is about keeping water on a floating board, but it's far trickier than it sounds thanks to falling blocks called uppers, and an irksome earthquake meter that adds chaos. Screenshots show off the vibrant, geometric world, featuring everything from using fireballs to repair holes, to dealing with bombs that appear just when things seem under control. Apparently it even looks a bit like the Peak District, but wetter. Z2 has clearly crafted a clever, challenging puzzler, aimed at players looking for something a bit different. The next page dives deeper into the Weetrix review, reinforcing that it's not the simple puzzle game it might appear to be. Beyond the uppers and troublesome earthquakes mentioned previously, you've also got downers to contend with, which lower the terrain, adding another layer of chaos. Bombs, ice cubes to freeze water, handy but not always a solution, and fireballs that make the water evaporate, are all part of the manic mix. The reviewer reckons you need to be a bit of a juggler to master this one, describing the pace as initially slow but quickly becoming utterly frenetic. Despite the challenge, it's highlighted as seriously addictive, even if you're constantly getting beaten by the game. Apparently, Weetrix boasts a boatload of modes to keep you hooked, from challenges to tougher settings, plus a distinct two-player mode. The page also introduces some characters you'll encounter: Wet Boy, the standard water chap, Bernie, who heats things up, Bomb Bomb, the explosive little fellow, and Cube, apparently the coolest guy in the pack. The screenshots show more gameplay action, and the game's menu options. Weetrix, a manic N64 puzzle game, features earthquakes, uppers, downers, bombs, ice and fireballs. The graphics, particularly the water effects, are praised, as are the sound effects, though the music can get repetitive. Reviewers Nick and Simon highly recommend it, comparing it favorably to 1080 Degrees Snowboarding and Mystical Ninja, and calling it incredibly addictive. The game boasts strong scores: graphics/sound, 8, playability/lastability, 9, overall, 93, making it the best puzzle game on the N64. The game also introduces characters like Quake, Spike, and Derek, with varying effects on gameplay. This page is all about the arrival of Tamagotchis on the N64 with Tamagotchi World. The info box tells us it's a board game from Bandai and Nintendo, designed for 14 players but only available in Japanese, and it won't save your progress or rattle your rumble puck, so don't get too attached to your progress then. The big headline asks if this is just another cash-in on the Tamagotchi craze. The page dives into the history of the tiny virtual pets, from their massive success in Japan, to their slightly less enduring popularity in the UK. Turns out they're still huge in Japan, which is why Nintendo and Bandai decided to bring them to the N64 as a board game. Looking at the screenshots, it certainly looks like a colourful board game, complete with dice and little characters running around. The Control Freak section highlights how utterly simple the controls are. You basically only use the analog stick, the A button for actions, and the B button to pick up and throw dice. Everything else on the controller is apparently surplus to requirements, which gives you an idea of the depth you can expect. The core idea is apparently raising a Tamagotchi from an egg into a healthy adult by feeding it and playing with it, otherwise it's destined for a digital dirtnap. It seems like a straightforward adaptation of the original toy's concept into a party/board game format for the console. The next page is a full review of Tamagotchi World, and it seems the reviewer's initial amusement quickly wore off. Under the headline, First Impressions, they state that the cute antics were only entertaining for about 10 minutes before the potential for annoyance set in. The main body of the review dives into the game's structure. It's a board game where you roll dice to move around different routes, aiming to raise your Tamagotchi from egg to adulthood. There are good squares that boost your score, and bad squares that deduct points. The game also features various mini-games, described as ranging from simple mazes and button mashers to the delightfully bizarre Pooh Fight, a personal favorite for the reviewer apparently, and Dodge the Hammer. The reviewer notes that the game's presentation, with its hand-drawn graphics and children singing the intro music, clearly targets a younger audience. However, they ultimately conclude that the game is nauseatingly cute, slow, and disjointed. The music and sounds are deemed irritating, and the Tamagotchis themselves are sickening. The verdict? Unless you're already obsessed with Tamagotchis, do not buy this game. The verdict box confirms the low opinion with scores. Graphics get an 8, likened to Blue Peter specials, but sound scores a dismal 3. Playability and lastability both receive a 4, primarily because, as the reviewer puts it, after playing once, you'll likely never touch it again. The overall score is a rather damning 44. This page dives into a review of Robotron 64, the Nintendo 64 update of the classic arcade shoot-'em-up. Published by GT Interactive and developed by Crave, it's described as an arcade shooter for 1 or 2 players. The game is highlighted as one of the retro titles making a comeback in the 90s. The core concept remains simple: save the humans from swarms of alien robots intent on munching them. The gameplay, described under the Game On heading, is all about survival against overwhelming odds, navigating levels packed with various robotic baddies, some even turning saved humans against you. You start with a basic laser, controllable by the seat buttons or a second controller's analog stick, and can pick up power-ups like a nifty flamethrower. Graphically, as discussed in the Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep section, it's a bit of a mixed bag. While it retains the feel of the original, the visuals have been updated with polygon characters and more color, aiming for a slightly more modern look. The control freak diagram shows how the N64 pad is used, with the analog stick for movement, and the C buttons primarily for directing your fire, although hilariously, most of the other buttons on the pad aren't actually used. It's a game of pure twin-stick chaos, just like the good old days. The screenshots showcase the colorful, if somewhat sparse, environments, and the polygonal characters and enemies you'll encounter. A Robotron 64 review criticizes the N64 port of the arcade classic. Initial impressions are chaotic and confusing, and the game's polygonal, grid-based levels with simple characters are highlighted. The reviewer notes the 80s/techno soundtrack and enemy sound effects, but argues that modern players expect more than repetitive shoot-'em-up action. While the visuals have been updated, the gameplay remains largely unchanged. The review scores the graphics poorly, praises the sound, and criticizes the repetitive gameplay, ultimately awarding the game a low overall score of 54. This page kicks off a competition themed around the clever puzzle game Weetrix. It's a bright and bubbly splash page showing off some very shiny 3D characters that look like they could be the game's various elements or perhaps even some mascots. There's a big white character at the front, surrounded by a green spiky ball, some angry orange chaps, a yellow duck-like fella, and a cool blue guy, all set against a wavy blue background with the distinctive Weetrix W logo. It's all about getting you hyped for the competition details that are surely coming up next. This page lays out the juicy details of the Weetrix competition teased on the last. Ocean have clearly been generous, letting Total 64 give away some cracking prizes after Weetrix scooped a whopping 93% score in this very issue. Top prize is a shiny new N64 console, the Weetrix game, and a t-shirt. Not bad, eh? 9 runners-up also bagged the game and a t-shirt. To enter, you just need to answer 3 simple multiple-choice questions. They're about the game's developers, and, rather amusingly, the best kind of water, clearly playing on the game's theme. Answers need to be sent on a postcard, or in an envelope, to the provided address in Exeter, and they must arrive by the 30th of June 1998. Don't even think about trying to bribe the editor. Apparently his decision is final. The page shows off the N64 console, the game's box art and logos for Weetrix, Z2, the developers perhaps, Ocean, the publisher, and Infogrames. Solid competition page offering some proper gear. This page kicks off the reviews roundup, welcoming readers to a new look section packed with info to help decide what to buy. There's a handy guide explaining the icons used in the reviews. You'll find out about save types, rumble pack compatibility, cartridge size in MB, remember when that mattered, the number of players, and crucially the game's region UK PAL, Japan, or USA. Then we dive into the games. First up is Aerogauge, a futuristic racer from ASC2, and Locomotive. The reviewer calls it fast but plagued by pop-up, suggesting you're better off waiting for F-Zero X. It scored a rather average 58. Next, Aerofighter's Assault by Video System and Paradigm. Expected more from the creators of Pilotwings apparently. It suffers from a terrible frame rate that ruins the game, scoring a miserable 42. Ouch. Things pick up with Art of Fighting Twin from Culture Brain. Described as arguably the best beat-em-up on 64, besides Fighter's Destiny. It's compared favorably to Tekken. Shame it's only available on import. It nets an impressive 89. Finally, Automobili Lamborghini by Nintendo and Titus. Another racer that fails to impress, let down by handling, graphics and track design. Though the feeling of speed is a plus, it gets a middling 72. A mixed bag of scores on this page then. This review roundup covers several N64 games. Blastcore, a unique puzzle game about demolishing buildings, receives a high score of 89. Bomberman 64, while offering single-player similar to Mario 64, disappoints with a lackluster two-player mode, earning a 75. Chameleon Twist, a Mario 64 clone, is deemed too easy and short, scoring a poor 51. Cruisin' USA, Nintendo's first driving game, is criticized for poor controls and is compared unfavorably to Sega's Outrun, receiving a 59. Dark Rift, a Tekken-inspired fighter, is deemed dated despite decent graphics, scoring 79. Doom 64's updated graphics and faithful gameplay earn it an 89, though it's not as impactful as GoldenEye. N64 game reviews continue, with Diddy Kong Racing, 95, praised for its Mario Kart-inspired gameplay and story mode. Dual Heroes, 52, received a poor score due to its shallow gameplay and presentation. Duke Nukem 64, 90 retains the PC version's style and level design. Extreme G, 94, delivers a Wipeout-like experience. F1 Pole Position, 80, captures the PlayStation racing feel, while Famistar 64, 78, offers a unique baseball experience. FIFA, RTW, C98, 78, is criticized for its complexity, and Fighter's Destiny, 93, is lauded as the best N64 fighter, with an original system. All reviews include visual aids for hardware support. This page continues the reviews roundup, kicking off with the absolute masterpiece that is GoldenEye 007, declared the best game on the N64 with a stunning 98/100ths and praised for its incredible mission-based gameplay and superb multiplayer. Following that we have ISS 64, which scores a cracking 97/100ths and is hailed as the best football game on the console, mixing arcade fun with surprising depth. Moving down, Lilac Wars, or Star Fox 64 as you might know it, gets a very respectable 94/100ths, highlighted for its amazing graphics that make you feel like you're right in the action, and a solid multiplayer. Mace, The Dark Age comes in at 89/100ths, described as a gory beat-em-up conversion with a focus on weapons. The second half of the page features Madden 64 scoring 89/100ths, noted for lacking the official license but having excellent AI, and Mario Kart 64, another classic, earning a 93/100ths for its excellent multiplayer and improvements over the SNES version. However, it's not all winners. MK Mythologies is slated with a truly abysmal 31/100ths and explicitly told not to buy, while the racing game MRC gets an average 80/100ths, described as decent but limited by only a few tracks. The page includes screenshots and hardware compatibility icons for each review. This page carries on with the review roundup, kicking off with Nagano Olympics 98, which gets a rather average 69/100ths. Apparently, only the downhill skiing is any good, with the rest feeling a bit out of control. Moving on, NFL QB C98 scores a solid 89/100ths, lauded as a great football simulation, similar to Madden, but that's no bad thing. Next up is the brilliant Pilotwings 64, pulling in an impressive 95/100ths, hailed as one of the best games on the system with superb graphics and addictive mission gameplay. Quake makes its N64 debut with a respectable 91/100ths, a decent conversion of the scary PC classic, though the multiplayer isn't quite GoldenEye standard. Snowboard Kids gets a fun 81/100ths, described as a cutesy racer akin to Mario Kart on snowboards. Good fun, but perhaps lacking depth for serious players. Then there's the absolute legend, Super Mario 64, scoring a near-perfect 96/100ths. It's called the game that started it all, and is deemed utterly essential if you own an N64. Finally, Tetrisphere lands an 84/100ths, as a good crack at bringing the classic puzzle game into 3D, praised for its music. And Top Gear Rally gets a strong 85/100ths, possibly the best driving game around, praised for realistic handling and graphics, just let down by some daft A opponents. Screenshots and compatibility icons are included for each game. This page carries on with the reviews roundup, starting with Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, which lands an 89/100. They reckon it's still an excellent game, overshadowed by the amazing GoldenEye, with great animation and weapons, offering a decent challenge. Next up is Wave Race 64, also scoring a solid 89/100. Praised for its technically superb and realistic water racing, though the single player is a bit short unless you're mad for time trials. Moving on to fighting games, W vs NWO grabs a fantastic 92/100. If you're into wrestling, this is apparently an excellent fighting game packed with characters and moves, and it boasts one of the best 4-player modes on the N64. Then we have Yoshi's Story, getting an 84/100. The reviewers were a bit let down, expecting something more like Mario World but finding it a limited 2D platformer, too easy and too short for the more seasoned players. Below these featured reviews, there's a large section titled, "And the Rest," which lists loads more games with their publishers, developers, release status, scores, and which issue they were reviewed in. You'll find things like FIFA 64, Killer Instinct Gold, Star Fox 64, and many others, giving you a quick glance at how they fared. Screenshots and compatibility icons are shown for the main 4 games at the top. This page is a full-page advert for 64 Game Busters, a guide promising to tear apart the biggest Nintendo 64 releases every issue, putting victory in the palm of your hands. This page is a full-page advert for 64 Game Buster, promising pages and pages of cheats, tips, and solutions for every N64 game ever released. Miss it at your peril. This page, as the title dramatically proclaims, is all about being a cheaty monkey. We've got some cracking codes for you lot here. First up, a proper gem for GoldenEye 007. Believe it or not, someone actually found a code to unlock extra multiplayer characters, including a terrorist bloke, and even a cleaning lady. Follow the button combo magic listed here, starting with the last character highlighted on the select screen. Then, we've got some serious help for cruising USA. Want to race on courses you normally only hit during the main cruise? The codes are here, just follow the button presses for each location. Even better, you can unlock hidden vehicles like a jeep, police car, or school bus. There are specific buttons to hold down for each one. Plus, learn how to get flashing lights and a siren on the police car, and lights on the school bus, which involves messing about in the hot times list apparently. And if you need a little boost, there's a nitro boost code too. Just remember you can only use it once per checkpoint. Finally, for Aerofighter's Assault, a couple of handy tips. You can change your plane's color scheme just by pressing AR on the select screen. And for something a bit more substantial, there's a secret plane, an F-15 perhaps, unlocked by entering a button sequence on the title screen. Happy cheating, folks! This page is dedicated to more cheating goodness. Following on from the last, we've got 3 absolute classics getting the cheaty monkey treatment. First up, Diddy Kong Racing, offering a whole slew of magic codes you enter via the options menu. Fancy turning all weapons off for the computer? Use bye-bye balloons. Want different colored balloons? There are codes for green, yellow, and even rainbow. You can mess with bananas, so they have no effect, nor yellow stuff, or reduce your speed. Bogus bananas. There's also one for random character noises, instead of a horn, blabbermouth, maximum power-ups, free for all, or starting with 10 bananas, free fruit. Plus, there's the rather involved method to unlock drumstick. Collect all the pieces, find the hopping frog with red feathers, run it over, and drumstick appears. Then we have Duke Nukem 64. Us version only, mind. Get access to a cheat menu right from the start by hitting a specific button sequence on the main menu. Once in the cheat menu, you can enter another code to grab all items, become invincible with a press of the R button, or switch monsters on and off with another button combo. Proper mayhem, pattern. Finally, we've got level skip codes for Doom 64, handily broken down by skill level. Whether you're playing on Be Gentle, Bring It On, or the frankly bonkers I Own Doom, there are codes listed here to jump ahead to various levels. Saves you the bother of wading through the demonic hordes the hard way, eh? This page delves into even more cheat codes for classic N64 titles. Kicking off with Doom 64 again, building on the level skips from the last page, we get the ultimate weapon cheat packed with health, armor, weapons and items to make your laser gun absolutely ridiculous, apparently killing the final boss in just 4 seconds. There's also a super password to jump straight to the last level with max everything. Proper demolition. Ori. Next up is Extreme G, which is absolutely rammed with cheeky codes. You can amp up the speed even further with Extreme, go transparent with Ghostly, warp your view with Magnify or Fisheye, or even race upside down using Antigrav. Want to turn into a rolling boulder? There's a cheat for that with Roller. If you're rubbish, use RA50 to quit races and still win. You can even race as the development team, or shoot probe director Fergus McGovern, which is rather specific. Plus, there are passwords for hidden bikes, tracks, weapons, and unlimited boosts. We also have a quick one for F1 pole position, telling you how to unlock an extra Ubisoft car by holding down buttons after becoming world champion. And finally for FIFA, Road to World Cup 98, you can play matches upside down by selecting Australia and using Enwadidispu as a player name, or check out victory animations with the Japan team. Various cheat codes and secrets are revealed for multiple Nintendo 64 games. Football gets codes for Hot Potato Mode, Invisible Walls and Instant World Cup access. GoldenEye 007 unlocks through level completion with challenges like invincibility, weapon upgrades, and giant bond mode. G-League/IS Soccer features team unlocks and oversized player heads. Madden 64 offers a hidden team and instant access to the ending. Mario Kart 64 unveils developer course ghosts in time trial mode, allowing players to race against their best times. This page is dedicated to more cheats and secrets for a trio of N64 titles. First up, Pilot Wings 64 players can learn where to find the special Birdman stars hidden on Holiday Island, Crescent Island and Little States Island to unlock the ability to soar around the levels. It also provides a handy trick for scoring a perfect 100 on the Jumble Hopper Challenge by finding a secret teleporter. Then there's a huge spread of codes for NFL Quarterback Club 98, entered on the cheat menu. These range from making players ridiculously huge or tiny, which apparently messes with the commentator's voice, turning them into specific legendary players like Walter Payton or Michael Johnson, granting unlimited downs, or making ball carriers almost impossible to tackle. You can also activate wild modes, like sled mode, turbo, or even something called a Pandover Madness. Sounds like pure chaos. Finally, San Francisco Rush gets a good chunk of the page, detailing various button combinations for the setup and select screens. Want to mess with physics? You can change gravity or alter car and tire sizes. Fancy a different look? Change the fog color or turn off track textures. There are even codes to disable collisions, turn cones into mines, or even turn your own car into a mine. Clearly, health and safety wasn't a big concern here. It also explains how to unlock the exclusive drive cab and the hot rod car by collecting keys on the tracks. This page reveals game-breaking secrets for various N64 titles. Super Mario 64 cheats include bizarre hat tricks, camera control glitches, and butterfly to mushroom transformations. Shadows of the Empire offers bonus unlocks based on challenge point accumulation across difficulty levels. Tetrasphere cheats unlock extra music, a secret game, level select, and a vortex mode. Top Gear Rally allows for customization, including removing filtering, activating rainbow mode, unlocking cosmetic cars, and mirroring car textures. This page provides cheat codes for N64 games. Turok Dinosaur Hunter cheats include unlocking a gallery, credits, invincibility, all weapons, black and white wireframe mode, disco mode, and infinite lives. Wave Race 64 secrets include reverse racing, maximizing stunt scores, using the same racer in two-player mode, and performing new stunts like double and triple flips. Dolphin racing, tricks, and a speed burst technique are also detailed. Instructions and screenshots accompany the tips. This page dives deep into the world of the Datal Action Replay cartridge, the go-to gadget for anyone wanting to bend the rules on the N64. It explains that this device slots right into your console, letting you punch in codes to unlock all sorts of shenanigans in UK games, all for the price of around 45 quid back then. Worry. Featured here is a rather extensive list of codes covering a stack of titles including Bomberman 64, Extreme G, FIFA 64, GoldenEye 007, broken down level by level naturally, Hexen 64, Lilat Wars, MRC, Pilot Wings 64, Shadows of the Empire, Super Mario 64, Top Gear Rally, Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, and Wave Race 64. You're looking at your usual suspects like infinite lives, health and ammo, plus game-specific stuff like getting all the artifacts in Hexen, though they cheekily mention the list is long and slightly dubious to publish. Or activating specific modes in games like Extreme G or Wave Race. It's the ultimate guide for anyone who prefers to stroll through games like GoldenEye Immortal rather than relying purely on skill. This page, the firing line, is where the Total 64 faithful get to air their grievances and heap praise, all under the watchful eyes of a target riddled with bullet holes, because letters are serious business. There's a cracking prize draw happening thanks to Gamester LMP, giving away Lex 4 joypads and even a steering wheel worth a whopping £60 to those who get their letters printed. First up, Zishan Sheath bemoans the classic parental struggle, questioning why grown-ups don't get the N64 obsession. He covers everything from parents telling him not to buy controllers because they're expensive, to suggesting reading a book or seeing Friends instead of playing Mario Kart. He even throws in a comparison of his parents' musical tastes to Prince, just for good measure. The response from The Truth cleverly acknowledges the parent angle, but then hilariously suggests healthy activities, like watching telly and scoffing sweets. Next, SD from Rotherham writes in to thank Nintendo and the mag, highlighting the incredible impact games like Pilot Wings, Shadows of the Empire, Bomberman 64, and MRC have had on his 7-year-old son Alex, who has a disability affecting his speech and concentration. It's a genuinely heartwarming tale showing the therapeutic benefits of games, a point The Truth rightly champions, contrasting it with the media's usual focus on violence. It seems these games are more than just fun, and games, sometimes. The firing line letters praise the Nintendo 64, particularly GoldenEye, as the best first-person shooter. One writer, Mr. Bricknell, praises the magazine's reviews and dismisses complaints about lack of life, highlighting the N64's dominance in the genre. Another, Saul Barnes, defends the N64's game library, citing classics like GoldenEye, Diddy Kong Racing, and Super Mario 64. He also questions the relationship between the console makers and speculates on a Blastcore sequel. The Truth responds to both, confirming the magazine's stance on the N64 and offering advice regarding Blastcore. This page dives into the mailbag, with readers sounding off on the N64. One chap, a 3D modeler no less, complains the developers aren't pushing the N64's graphics hard enough, except for Rare. He also vents about constant game delays, which frankly, is a pain in the backside. The magazine agrees on some points, but points out that consistent high frame rates are tricky, and some games, like F-Zero-X, compromise detail for speed. Another reader credits GoldenEye with saving his life. Quite dramatic. Finally, someone asks why Capcom and Namco aren't bringing their big hitters like Tekken and Resident Evil over, and queries a rumored budget range for N64 classics like Mario 64. The magazine confirms Namco's tied up with Sony, but Capcom is planning N64 titles. They also confirm the budget range is happening, just maybe not in the UK yet. Seems the wait for the 64D. D continues. Typical. The page features images of Abe from Abe's Odyssey, a rather nasty-looking zombie that could be from Resident Evil, and Bowser looking chuffed in a cart. This page heads to the mailbag for the star letter and more reader thoughts. One punter kicks off by voicing general dissatisfaction with the N64 software library, suggesting editorial opinion might be biased. They argue Nintendo focuses on making money rather than satisfying market needs, and question the restrictive cartridge format when PlayStation's CD success is evident. This reader also highlights the perceived immaturity of N64 games like Diddy Kong Racing and Lilat Wars, lamenting Nintendo's apparent targeting of younger audiences. Another letter writer, a 12-year-old no less, worries about the future of Nintendo, pondering the ever-growing list of peripherals like capture cartridges and mouse add-ons, suggesting the N64 is increasingly aimed at adults. They plead for preteens not to be forgotten, and ask about a potential N64 version of Shadowrun. Total 64 responds by acknowledging some valid points, admitting there's a lack of quality software, but defending Nintendo's approach to creating original hits like Mario 64, Blast Corps and GoldenEye, arguing these wouldn't exist if they only followed reader preferences. They concede the industry is leaning towards adult content, citing Sony's dominance, and suggest Nintendo might need to adapt. They confirm the 64D should be affordable but pour cold water on the idea of Shadowrun appearing on the console. The page is adorned with a large star letter graphic and an image of the N64 console itself. This page features a competition dishing out some useful N64 kit, courtesy of Fire International and Blaze. They're giving away Jolt Pack, that's the Rumble Pack mind you, and memory card combos, along with separate 1 MB and 256K memory cards. The question they want answered is a cracker. Which of the following has the most heat? A. Hot. B. Hotter Century Hottest. As they admit themselves, they couldn't think of anything better. Fair enough. Get your answer in by the 30th of June 1998, and prizes depend on when your entry is drawn. Funny how we were just chatting about N64 peripherals last page, and here they are giving away exactly the sort of things some folk reckon are pushing the console towards a more adult audience. Below that, there's an advert for officially licensed Nintendo 64 game cases made by Pride. These are designed to protect and store your cartridges, instructions, and controller packs. You can pick them up as singles, or in 3 packs from UK Action Limited, with prices listed including VAT and P&P. Keeps your precious collection tidy, I suppose. This page is all about the readers showing off their artistic talents in the Picks Win Prizes section of the letters page. Looks like Fire International and Blaze are back at it, giving away even more N64 goodies for the best drawings. It ties in nicely with the peripherals we saw on the previous page, offering another opportunity to get your hands on a pad, Jolt Packs with memory, controller extender cables, and some cool keychains. The page is filled with some proper cracking artwork from the readers. We've got everything from a hockey-playing character, Gretzky perhaps, some chaotic Mario Kart action with a huge Trex looming over it, and some classic Zelda fan art featuring Link looking rather determined. There's also a rather jolly-looking Yoshi peeking out from a castle and, rather bizarrely, Yoshi dressed as Elvis. The star prize winner is a detailed fantasy scene. The text explains how they've had loads of entries, and will keep printing the best ones, along with a helpful nudge about making sure your name, age, and address are on the back of your masterpiece so they don't lose it. Using a big envelope is apparently key too. Good stuff from the readers, showing off their love for the N64 universe. This page dives into the all-important high scores section, showcasing the skills of the Total 64 readers across a trio of cracking N64 titles. First up, we've got 1080 degrees snowboarding, ditching the wave race action for some cool tricks, and speed runs down the slopes. It looks like Nick Jones is dominating this one, putting down some seriously solid times and high scores across multiple tracks like Dragon Cave, Crystal Lake, and Golden Forest. He's even bagged the best contest score. Warrington next. It's the legendary GoldenEye. This section is packed with reader times for those classic levels like Dam, Archives, Facility, and Streets. Anthony Bromley seems to be a man on a mission, posting loads of impressive times across the board. There are a few others chipping in too, laying down fast runs on various missions. Finally, we hit Lilat Wars, putting those aerial combat skills to the test. Dmitry Jarazraj from Germany is the top dog here, racking up high scores on levels like Corneria, Sector Y, and Titania, ultimately posting a formidable total score. Aaron Taylor also features prominently on a few levels. The page rounds off with Tim Mindham throwing down the gauntlet for Diddy Kong Racing. Time to get those engines revving and send in your best times. This page keeps the high scores coming, this time focusing on the mighty Mario Kart 64. The feature kicks off by highlighting the Dunn brothers, Richard and Danny, who are clearly tearing it up on the tracks and setting the standard for everyone else to beat. The core of the page is dedicated to showcasing reader-submitted times and scores for pretty much every track in the game, from the simple Luigi Raceway to the epic Rainbow Road. Scores are listed for both UK and US players, covering both full race times and fastest single laps. It's a real mixed bag of competition here, with names like Lusterinen Tata from Finland putting in serious challenges alongside the dominant Dunn brothers and other hopefuls like Nick McCarty and Thomas Jr. Visually, you get a shot of Richard and Danny Dunn themselves, plus a couple of cracking screenshots from the game. One showing a kart flying along a track and another up close of Mario looking rather pleased with himself. The page finishes with a big shout out, urging readers to send in their best scores, videos, and photos. The promise? You could become a twinkling gaming star and even get your picture in the magazine. So, if you think you're fast, this is your chance to prove it. This page is a big old advert for Total 64 magazine itself. You can subscribe and snag 12 issues for the price of 10. A proper bargain, saving you a bit of cash while getting more gaming goodness delivered right to your door. This page is all about catching up on past issues of Total 64. If you missed out on some cracking content, this is your chance to fill those gaps. They're listing back issues from number 2 right up to number 14, each with a few highlight games mentioned. For example, you could pick up issue 5 for reviews of Mario Kart and War Gods, or grab issue 10 to dive into Duke Nukem 64 and Diddy Kong Racing. Fancy some fighting? Issue 12 features reviews of Fighters Destiny and Madden 64. They even mention Yoshi's Story, Quake, and SimCity 2000 on other issues. The bottom half is the order form itself. You just tick the issues you want, fill in your details like name, address and phone number, and work out the total price at £4.95 per issue. You can pay by cheque, postal order, or credit card, Visa, Access, or MasterCard. Looks like you just pop the whole thing in the post to their subs department in Exeter. Simple as that. This page gives us a sneak peek at what's coming in the next issue. Dominating the top is the big next month header, promising exciting stuff. There's a dynamic illustration of a football player executing an impressive diving kick alongside the details for the upcoming review showdown. First up, it's the Battle of the Football Titans, IS-98 versus World Cup 98. They're going head to head to see which game reigns supreme in the world of virtual football championships. Then we have Forsaken, Acclaim's futuristic shoot-'em-up, which they reckon is gonna be big. For racing fans, Ocean's GT Club is on the horizon, described as the racing game we've all been waiting for. Sounds like some serious driving action is on the cards. Konami is bringing the fisticuffs with G.ASP Fighters Extreme, promising to give you 2 slaps and no mistake. But wait, there's more. The next issue also includes a free book, a complete guide and solution for the terrifying Quake on N64, so you won't be left stumbling in the dark. Clearly, the next issue of Total 64 is packed, and, as they put it, it's gonna be fat. This page is a comprehensive advert from Excitement Direct, listing a vast selection of Nintendo 64, Super NES, and Game Boy games and hardware available for mail order, complete with prices and special offers. This page is the final sign-off for issue 15. On the left, you've got the full masthead listing everyone involved in putting the magazine together. From the managing editor all the way down to sales and distribution contacts the folks who make it all happen. There's a quick thank you to Madeira Games too. The main focus is the editor's sign-off message from Nick Jones. He's wrapping things up, giving a nod to Weetrix for being a surprise hit, and proving that solid gameplay beats flashy graphics. He's clearly excited about the next issue, teasing reviews for upcoming games like Mission, Impossible and Forsaken, plus some racing action. Looks like the N64 is still going strong in their eyes. The page is decorated with some charming little cartoon characters, adding a bit of personality to the farewell. This page is a full-page advert for Special Reserve, offering discounted consoles, games, and accessories for Nintendo 64, PlayStation, Super NES and Game Boy, plus PCS, membership deals and free gifts. This page is a full-page advert for Aerogauge on the Nintendo 64. It's all about speed and skill, challenging you to see if you're truly good at racing games with over 1,000 miles per hour action and 64-bit graphics.